event, like for the Hyderabad Marathon, it's about 9 weeks or 55, 56 days left, right? So I'm sure they're
Right.
doing the best. How would you want them to evaluate, or like how do you want, what are the things they should be doing to get better, or what should they not be doing?
Yeah. Yes.
We have a little bit of an audio challenge. Maybe it's
Sorry?
there was a break in audio for a bit, so I just wanted to.
Okay. Yeah, I moved the Wi-Fi. Is it clear? Otherwise, I may have to change my position if the Wi-Fi is not strong enough.
Yeah, I think Zoom is mentioning that the signal might not be best, but
Okay. Seems like it's. How is it now? Is
I
it
can
okay
hear.
now?
Just let's continue and see how it goes.
Okay. Okay. Otherwise, I can move to a different place, to like my dining hall. Yeah. So there's a couple of things that I prepared actually in a PowerPoint sheet. So I don't know if I can share it.
Yes,
Is
please.
it possible to share?
Um, I'm sure.
I
Can you
can click on share
now?
here. I'm not sure. You can request the host to allow multiple sharing for this meeting.
Yes.
So I have to send a request.
Yalamanda, if you are, please do provide the access.
Chaitanya,
Okay, it's
Yep.
on now.
please introduce once again, just now live on the YouTube. Sorry for
Thanks.
that.
No. So sorry about that, guys. Bit of a technical snafu. What I'll just introduce Hugo once more. Hugo, sorry about that. We'll do that a little bit more. Okay, so
Okay,
Hugo's here with us to basically help you do your training better, right? I'm sure you've been working very hard for the last many months. We have like a few more weeks, nine weeks to be exact, 55 days actually to be very exact. So he's got an amazing running career, right? Like spanning 30 years, and I'm starting from his uh, later years. I think from what his website says, he's been running since he was 13. I'm not, I'm guessing that's correct. His personal best is, most personal bests have been 2:12:08 for a full marathon, 1:03:26 for a half marathon, right? After he finished, or rather, I don't know if it's okay to say finished your running career, but stopped being a runner, also not right. But anyway, towards 2014, um, he started training a bunch of teenagers in India and Bhopal, basically trying to get them into national, or to being a national and international runners, right? He still continues to coach elite and amateur runners across the world. He was the head coach for National Athletics Academy India, 2014 to 2020. Continues to provide online coaching for elite and amateur runners. Please contact if you want to be one of the trainees. He is the founder and CEO for Kenya Camp, which organizes running camps in Kenya for runners, all levels of runners, right? So do visit their website to know what you can experience. If you want to go and try it out, I'm sure it'll be an exciting experience. He's also founder and owner for a training center in Iten, Kenya, that provides boarding and gym facilities for all runners, right? I mean, all levels of runners. Okay. He also has a charity that he leads with his wife, Hila Kibet. It's Kibet for Kids. The aim is to provide support for children in impoverished communities, right? So do go looking at that site also to see if you can provide your own support, right? Let's get to Hugo directly now.
thank you, Chaitanya. Thank you very much for introducing me, and I'm happy to be here. Happy to talk with all of the
Excited to be
Hyderabad
talking to you.
runners.
Yes.
Sorry?
Excited to be talking to you, I say.
Thank you. And just for my understanding, is it do we have only Hyderabad runners online, or is it also maybe other people who are running the Hyderabad Marathon
I
that may
think
not be
everybody
part of.
who runs Hyderabad Marathon is what we hope are there. It's very difficult to know if there is others, but it's expected to be
Yes.
across all.
But you invited also those who may not be part of
It's
the Hyderabad
open to
runners
all.
but will
Yeah,
run the
it's
marathon.
it's just
Yes.
open to everyone.
Okay. Nice, nice, nice. So yeah, I'm happy to be here and to talk with you. It's for me as a coach, it's always my greatest pleasure just to be able to help people do better, to improve themselves. And for me, the level really doesn't matter. I've coached people of Olympic levels. Of course, my wife who was in the Olympics twice and European champion, and some other Kenyan and non-Kenyan runners of that similar level. But with the same pleasure, I coach people who are running 4 hours in a marathon or more than 2 hours on a half marathon, as long as they have the same intention of trying to improve and be focused and want to get the best out of themselves. So for me, that is the fun thing of doing. By the way, you said it well when you said I retired from running or I stopped my professional running in end of 2014.
I was
That
not
was the
sure
end of
if
my.
a runner's career ever ends. So,
Yeah, no. We normally say I retired from professional running. So I'm still running like 3 to 5 days a week.
oh,
I actually ran, I'm now 48 years old, so I'm not so fast anymore as before, but I ran a 10-mile race 2 months ago in 58 minutes, and I finished second in the Netherlands. So for my age category, I'm not bad. I can still run. But my focus is definitely on coaching. And I must say that at the moment, I do coach athletes online, but I am not able to do more than I can do right now. I'm at the maximum that I can handle. And we organize the running camps through Kenya Camp. So if anyone would love to come to Kenya, yeah, we're here for them with Kenya Camp. We have these running camps. We have actually a camp going on at the moment. And then next week, Sunday, we start another 2-week camp. And when that is finished, 10 days later, we have another 9-day camp. So they keep on going, and you get people from all over the world. Like now we have someone from Venezuela, from Taiwan, from Spain. It's really fun. It's really fun. Yeah. So yeah, when we talk about the training, of course, I have also, as how do you call it, a PowerPoint to share. I hope it works. Let me try to share it with you. Let me see if this works.
wonderful.
I don't know if you can see the whole sheet now.
We can see the slide, but maybe if you put in the presentation mode, you should see the whole screen.
Yes, I have to make this smaller. I think the comment section. Can you see the whole slide now?
Yes, we can now.
Okay. 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 Here we are. Marathon training unlocked, right? This is what we talk about today. So I wanted to start with 3 basically training principles. And please interrupt me if you can't see it or if something is like not clear on the screen, okay?
Sure, will do.
Okay. So basically today I want to talk about 2 different things. The first one is like the important training principles. And of course I can't talk about, if I want, I can talk about that for 5 hours, but I have to, I pick the most important ones for the marathon. And then I think there will be some questions, time for questions and answers. And after that, I talk about the 3 most important things, the 3 most important mistakes that you shouldn't make, right? So when we start talking about marathon training, so the first training principle, and this one is it's kind of an open door, but it's really the mother of all training principles, is that stress followed by recovery leads to progress. And what that means is that if you give a training stimulus, your body gets tired, obviously, and you need time to recover from that. As you can see in this slide here, there's a recovery period, which finally leads to super compensation. That is the time where you are recovered from the training and you're actually stronger than you were before. And that's when you have to plan another workout, right? If you don't plan enough training, you're going to be back to where you were, right? So basically, stress and recovery are 2 sides of the same medal. Without stress, there's no improvement, and without recovery, there's no improvement. Now, stress may seem like a bad word to some people, but with stress, I simply mean a training stress like a stimulus, right? So to put it simple, if I take a weight of 1 kg in my hand and I lift it 10 times, this is not a stress for my body because it's too light. If I take a weight of maybe 8 kg or 10 kg, and then I try to lift it up 10 times, this is heavy for my biceps. So this is a form of stress that eventually will make me better, will make me stronger. But if I would take a weight of, let's say, 8 kg and I lift it 3 times 10, 3 sets of 10 repetitions, and I do that week after week after week, at some point, maybe after 1 month of doing this, it's not a form of stress anymore because now my body is so used to it that I have to change something to make it stressful again, to make it a good stimulus. So I have to either do more repetitions or I have to take 10 kg instead of 8 kg, right? I have to make it heavier. If I keep on using the same load, it is not a good training stimulus anymore. So this is a simple law of training, but it is really kind of the basis for everything. Then the implications of this principle are also quite important. And this is also where I see sometimes amateur runners making mistakes. So the first implication is that when you increase the training load, you have to keep in mind that actually you have to increase the recovery as well. And why am I saying that? That's because I see runners who are running, for example, 50 kilometers a week. And that's what they can handle. They have a full-time job, they have a family, they're basically busy from 6 in the morning until 10 in the evening. And they can handle that 50 kilometers a week. Now they're going for a marathon and they say, I want to increase my training load to maybe 60, 70, or if possible, even 80 kilometers a week. Well, that's only possible if you also increase your recovery. Otherwise, somewhere it's going to cause you to burn out. Basically, you will get an injury or you will get too tired. You will not recover anymore from the training. So this is also where you see a little bit of difference between amateur runners and elite runners. To give you an example from my own experience, when I was 24 years old and I finished my master's degree and I was looking for a job, I was also a runner and I knew, like, I was running about 120 kilometers a week at that time. And I knew that to reach the top in the marathon, I would have to run at least 180 kilometers a week, just because there's no one who reaches the top with 120. So I knew that I have to run 180 kilometers a week. So I decided to look for a job of 4 hours a day. Yeah, so a part-time job, 20 hours a week, 4 hours every day, because I knew that working full-time would not combine that with running 180 kilometers a week. Or if I would try to combine it, it would lead to overtraining, basically. So this is a very important training principle. If you are starting to train for the marathon and you are increasing your training load, make sure you focus on your recovery as well. So make sure you go to bed in time. See if you can reduce your working hours somewhere, reduce some driving, right? You have to look for some extra recovery in between. That's the first implication. The second one is that easy days have to be easy so that hard days can be hard, right? So this is another implication where I see that runners often make mistakes. They do their easy days a little bit too fast, and then they don't recover well from the hard days. And at the same time, their body is not fresh enough for the next workout. And what is easy enough? It's a little bit individually, but roughly I normally say that your easy runs should be around 1 minute per kilometer slower than your threshold pace. So meaning that if let's say in a 1 hour race, you're able to run 5 minutes per kilometer, then in easy runs, you should try to run around 6 minutes per kilometer, roughly there. If you're running at 5:30 per kilometer, you're too close to your threshold pace and it's not easy enough. I'm seeing a message in my WhatsApp saying PowerPoint in slide mode, please. I don't know if I know how to change that. Any advice on that?
The button at the bottom next to the zoom, that should help.
Oh yeah.
To the left of zoom. The first button up to the left of the zoom button. Yeah.
This
That's,
way?
yeah.
Okay. Right. So this is quite important. Easy days, easy runs, keep your easy runs easy so that you can recover enough and be fresh enough for the hard days, the hard workouts, right? You have to apply the right amount of stress for you, meaning that if you do a workout, a harder session, it should not take you more than 3 days to recover from that, right? So if you train hard on a Tuesday or Wednesday, maybe your next workout can be on a Friday or Saturday. And the last point is about the stress today is not the stress next year. That is what I describe when I talk about lifting a weight. If you keep on doing the same thing, it's not a form of stress anymore. So this is the first principle of training for the marathon. Let me go to the next one, specificity. This one is also very important, especially when it comes to marathon training, because marathon training is significantly different from, let's say, 10-kilometer and half marathon training. Why? Because you run so long that at some point your glycogen levels in your muscles are going to be finished, and that is something that needs to be trained. Basically, when you're running a marathon, you're running, let's say, between 3 and 5 hours at a certain pace. So what you want to do in training is you want to run long enough to get your body to get used to the pounding on the ground, right? That is causing some muscle damage, and also to get used to having low glycogen levels. So glycogen is like, I think most people understand that it's like the sugars in your muscles, in your liver, in your body, that helps you to run, right? So that is, glycogen is basically a source of energy that we use while we run. So you have to run long enough, and you have to run at your race pace to improve your efficiency at race pace. Your efficiency is like the amount of oxygen that your body uses at a certain pace. So to make it really concrete, let's say you're running a marathon in 3.5 hours. 3.5 hours is around 5 minutes or 4:55 per kilometer. Now, when you're going to the track on the Tuesday, and every time you're doing something like 10 times 400 meters or 6 times 600 meters at a speed of 4 minutes per K, that's not specific enough for the marathon. That's not really going to help you. There's nothing wrong with doing 10 times 400 meters, but you don't want to do a lot of those kind of sessions when you're training for the marathon. When you're training for the marathon, you want to do longer intervals and close to race pace. You can leave the sessions like 10 times 400 or 8 times 600 for 3 months, 4 months before the marathon. But now in the last 9 weeks, 8 weeks, 7 weeks, you want to focus on more marathon specific sessions. So basically, you want to focus on easy mileage and marathon pace. You want to do some 10K and half marathon speed for support. It helps you to be comfortable at marathon pace. And you also want to practice drinking during your run, because you're going to a race and you're going to drink during the race, most likely. So to have your stomach, your gut get used to that, you want to practice that in training, which is also quite important. Generally, we are saying, as this is what I think many of the elite coaches believe in. You go in training from non-specific to specific. So you plan your goal race, that is here at the end. Your goal race. Well, when you're like 6 months before the race, you work on everything. So you work on slower paces and faster paces. The closer you come to the race, the more specific you make it. The closer you're going to run to race pace. Right? So that's one of the most important principles of training. Now, to give you just an example how it can look like a training week. So this is, of course, there are many different examples, but this is just one of the examples. So this is a week with mostly easy running on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, as you can see. But on Monday, we have added some strength and conditioning, which is also important. It can help you to handle the mileage. On Tuesday, there's a few strides to get used to faster running. Then on Wednesday, you have a session, whether it's on the track or on the road, doesn't matter so much, but you're doing 5 times a mile or 1600 meter at your half marathon pace with a 2 minutes recovery or 400 meter easy jog. Of course, it can be something else. It can be 10 times 1000. It can be 8 times 1000. It can be combination of long to short. You know, I'm coaching some Indian runners as well at the moment, and one of the guys did a session of I think 2400 and 2000, 1600, 1200, 800 with I think 90 seconds or 2 minute recovery. So generally, when we are training for the marathon, we keep the recoveries short. We take 1 minute or 2 minutes recovery, but not 5 minutes, because as you know, a marathon is 42 kilometers non-stop without recovery. So if we take long rest between the intervals, it will just not be specific enough, and it will kind of enable us to run very fast. And that's not the point of the training, right? And then I've given an example of a Saturday session. A long run can be 30K, can be 32. Maybe how long you go depends on the person, but some people can go up to 35K or even 37K in training. And then I often like to include some marathon pace in that. So it might be a 32K with the first, let's say, 10 kilometers easy, followed by 4 times 4 kilometers at the marathon speed, with 1 or 2 kilometers easy in between, right? And another example is a progression run, where you start at an easy pace. For example, the first 13 kilometers are easy. Then you do 10 kilometers moderate, which is not as fast as marathon speed, but close to that. And then you finish with the last 8 kilometers at marathon pace, plus 1 kilometer cool down. And when it says marathon pace, I actually always mean marathon effort. And I'm saying that because you might be training in hot conditions, much hotter than the race will be, and then you should run a little bit slower, right? Because you have to run at the actual marathon effort, not necessarily at the marathon pace. Because if, now for example, you're running uphill, it doesn't make sense to keep running at your marathon pace. You will be pushing yourself too much, right? So, and like I said here, the easy running should mostly be 60 to 90 seconds per kilometer slower than your threshold pace. So that's the second training principle. The third one is that I strongly believe that you have to train your body, but also your mind. So as elite runners, we often make the joke that marathon training is 90% physical and 90% mental. Because people always ask, is it 90% physical and 10% mental, or 10% physical and 90% mental? Well, both are actually very, very important. So I like to say that you should really train the mind as well. And I've seen big improvements when people train their mind. So what I want to talk more about now is the self-talk. So normally I tell my athletes to use meditation. So that is maybe once a week they practice meditation. And I know this is quite common in India, where many people do yoga, which is a form of meditation, of course. But I feel like it helps to improve your focus. Then coming closer to the race, you can use visualization, where you imagine yourself running the race in different scenarios. You try to imagine the how it feels in the beginning, how it feels at the end, how you struggle, how you push through the pain, how you do well, how you take your drinks. So you can visualize different scenarios. And the last one, and maybe even the most effective, is self-talk. So self-talk, what it means is that you basically prepare some words or phrases that you tell yourself during the race. And this is something it's good to practice in training. Most people talk to themselves in an unconscious way, right? So we are running and we feel like, oh, my legs are heavy. Oh, it's so hot today. I don't think I can make it. That's the kind of self-talk that you don't want to have. And because that is kind of negative and it's just pulling you down. So to avoid that kind of self-talk, you have to take control. And you take control by preparing words or phrases that help you. So normally I advise to do that in the second person. So for example, you can do this rather than I can do this. It seems to work better. There's research done in this area which shows that people can improve 20 to 39% in their performance by using self-talk in a good way. and mostly it's done in the second person. So you can do this, you got this, this is your day, such kind of things. There's different types of self-talk. You can have motivational self-talk, like you can do this, and instructional self-talk, like use your arms, keep your shoulders relaxed, increase your cadence, right? So telling yourself what to do. So when I was preparing for a marathon, I would have some self-talk for the beginning. For example, I tell myself, this is your day, you can do this. Then in the middle, I would, when it starts getting harder, I would tell myself, you are tough. You can do, it's getting tough, but you are tougher. You know how to suffer. Or I just tell myself, stick to the group, follow the pacer. And then in the last part, I tell myself something like time to accelerate. Yeah, time for the launch, keep on going. Yeah, so I have different phrases for like 3 different parts of the race. And I feel like that's it helps to keep the negative thoughts out, and it really helps to have a good performance. I even had it last week. I was doing a tempo run here in Kenya, and it was quite hot, and I was telling myself, oh, it's so hot, you will see my times. I split start to drop. Sorry. But then I realized what I was doing. So then I started to change it and tell myself, like, it's not so hot. You're feeling strong. It's pretty cool, actually. And it helped. I finished with the fastest kilometer of that run. So, yeah, I can really see the positive effect of that. Okay. Common mistakes is for the second part. So I'll stop sharing now. I think I've stopped. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah, stop sharing. Let me see if anybody's asked questions. Shiv or Yalmanda, if you're following the questions, please share. Apart from that, Hugo, we do have some questions that we've pre-asked.
Yes.
So there are a lot of questions. We obviously cannot go through all 100 of them. So we're going to filter them out and ask you towards the end of the session.
So do you want me to continue first?
I think we should. I don't see any response from this, or I'll ask somebody else to follow up in the meantime, but please continue.
Okay, so I'll continue with the second part.
Yes,
Of
please.
the common mistakes, and then we do the questions at the end. That's okay. So now, how do I share again? 1 second. Oh yeah, I'm seeing it. Can you see my screen now? Common mistakes. Hello, is my screen clear?
Yes, we see your screen.
Okay. So yeah, I wanted to discuss 3 common mistakes. So the first one is trying to run the most amazing workout. Second thing we are going to discuss is nutrition mistakes. And the third is getting new shoes for race day. So let's start with the first one. Actually, this is about having a marathon training mindset. I always felt that when you're training for a 10K, you can afford to sometimes push really hard in training and maybe lose, like you'll be so tired for maybe a couple of days or a week that you can't do much training, and that's okay because you're preparing for a 10K. But when you're training for a marathon, it's really about consistency. So we always say that training for the marathon is never about proving yourself, but about improving yourself. So improving yourself means that you want to have the right session at the right pace. It's not about like smashing that workout, having something that you can share in Strava so your friends are like, wow, what did you do? I mean, if you do something amazing, it's okay, but it should be within your capacity of how you normally train so that you can continue to train week after week. Because when you're training for the marathon, consistency is always number one. So meaning that you have a 10 or 12-week training period and you want to be able to continue week after week to make the mileage. You don't want to have a week of 70K followed by a week of 20K because you just, destroyed yourself basically by doing a really hard session, right? So you want to have consistency in training. And then after consistency comes mileage, right? So doing your easy mileage, being able to handle the training load and the mileage is important, more important than running 5 seconds per kilometer faster. Pace or speed comes only third, right? So if you're running and you're in doubt about whether you should push harder, you should ask yourself, if I push harder, will I still be able to make the mileage this week? Will I still be able to complete what I have in mind? Because I'm training for the marathon now. And will those 5 seconds faster in training really help? Right? It's also about training your engine in the right way. I always say when you're preparing for the marathon, you're training yourself to have a Toyota engine, not a Ferrari. What does that mean? Now, well, I've seen examples, even among some elite or let's say sub-elite runners. For example, someone who could run a 2-hour 20 marathon, right? That is 3 minutes and 20 seconds per kilometer for marathon pace. So it's pretty fast. But now this guy was training a lot at 310, 310, 305. He was pushing himself pretty hard and he was happy that he could run 310, 305 in training. But actually what he did is he was training himself to have a Ferrari engine. Well, as you know, a Ferrari may go very fast, but it will not go a lot of mileage with 1 liter of fuel, right? A Toyota might do 10 or 15 kilometers with 1 liter of petrol, whereas a Ferrari might do only 2 or 3 kilometers. So this is exactly what happened in the marathon. That guy was running the race and felt great in the beginning, but after 30 kilometers, he was completely done. He had to stop. He couldn't finish the race. So, sorry. When you're training for the marathon, it's important that you train at the right pace. If you're always training a little bit too fast, what happens is that you're always using too much of your glycogen, and that will train your engine, you can say, your muscles, to always use a little bit too much. And you will see that you may do well up to 20K or up to 30K, but not up to 42K. So this is why I always say, don't try to prove yourself. Think about improving yourself. Think about the impact that the training session have. Focus on consistency and mileage. It's better to train 5 seconds per kilometer too slow. That won't hurt you. But 5 seconds per kilometer too fast will hurt you in the race. And the second one, nutrition mistakes. So this is also where people often make mistakes. And it's one of the things I got some feedback from you guys that people are not sure about. So one mistake people make sometimes is dieting while training for a marathon. Dieting can be in the form of eating less because they want to lose weight. Generally not a good idea when you're training for the marathon because you need that energy. Dieting can be also following a certain diet, for example, high protein diet. I've seen athletes following a high protein diet. It doesn't work when you're training for a marathon. And there's different ideas about, what is maybe healthy. Maybe you may need a little bit more fat or a bit more proteins, but we are runners. And when we run a marathon, our body needs mostly carbohydrates. When we use fat, it's pretty simple, the way our body works. When we use fat as a fuel source, we need almost twice as much oxygen. So it's a lot harder. We will breathe harder. We will basically not be able to run as fast. Right? So carbohydrates are important. The rice, pancakes, potatoes, rice, potatoes, or rotis, or pasta, spaghetti, those kind of things that's I would say number one, especially before training. And you definitely need some proteins as well during the day, and you need some healthy fats. But don't disregard the carbohydrates, right? And another mistake is trying new food items during race week. So I've seen people that during race week, they start to, sometimes you may travel or you're staying in a hotel and they're like, oh, let's try this, let's try that. It's not a good idea when you're getting ready for a race. So normally my advice is whether you're having a race or an important training session, don't eat in the last 2 hours. So you want to eat something 2 hours before your race or your training session. And of course, if it's a heavy meal, you may need more time than 2 hours. You may even need 3 hours. It's a little bit individual because some people can do pretty well with a heavy meal and then run a workout or a race 2 hours later. But most people need more time, right? So if it is 2 hours, it is something small. Maybe you eat a banana or 2 slices of bread. Then you can have a race or a training session 2 hours later. But if it's a heavy meal like rice with meat and vegetables, you will need more time in between. So generally, before any kind of workout or race, try to be low in fat and protein or just avoid it altogether. The same counts for spices and gravy. Focus on carbohydrates before a race or a training session. Normally for a competition race, I would say wake up. Well, I know your race is going to be early, but the best is normally to wake up 2.5 or 3 hours before the race, and then make sure you have something in your stomach 2 hours before you start running. In my case, I would, and I know many elite runners do this, just eat 2 or 3 slices of toast or white bread with some jam or honey or peanut butter or something light, and then maybe some black tea or coffee. I definitely would not take yogurt or even milk. For me, that doesn't work. For many people, it doesn't work. So yeah, something light like that. Some people don't like eating bread, so they would take 1 or 2 bananas, and that's it. So, and we would take that about 2.5 hours before the race. And then in the last, hours before the race, you don't eat anything anymore. You only sip some water or maybe an electrolyte drink, which has some sodium and potassium inside. You can do that. The only last moment you can actually take some energy before the race is 5 minutes before the start. So let's say between 5 and 10 minutes before the start, if you have a small bottle of can be some energy drink like Fasten Up, or yeah, basically any kind of like Gatorade or whatever. You can take that 5 to 10 minutes before the start and take maybe 100 or 150 ml from that. That can help you. Definitely, it can help you in the race. But you shouldn't do that 1 hour before the start. It should just be 5 to 10 minutes. And I would also recommend runners, and maybe the organization can help here. If you guys in the Hyderabad Marathon, if you're every 5 kilometers, I'm assuming there will be drinking stations. So I don't know if it's water only or if there's some kind of energy drink. But if there is an energy drink, for example, I know in India we have Fasten Up. If it's Fasten Up, it will be good for the participants to know that, so that they can practice with that in training. They can, buy the same energy drink that is being given out during the race. So their stomachs, their whole system can get used to that specific energy drink, because there's difference between the different kinds of drinks. So you can practice with that in training. You can do some long runs, and then every 5K or every half an hour or something, you take a little bit of the drink, so that you are better prepared for the race. Now, my last point is, the last mistake is saving shoes for race day. Generally, you don't want to save anything for race day, except maybe a new singlet, like a shirt that you're wearing. That doesn't matter so much, but definitely with shoes, you don't want to do this. I know people who have like, for example, a Vaporfly. They had 2 pairs of Vaporflies. One that they were always using in training, and the other one they used it only for the race. What happened on race day? Those Vaporflies, they started having blisters in them on race day. So you don't want that. You might have the same shoe already, but still it's not the exact same. It might be the same brand, the same type, but you do have to use your racing shoes 2 to 4 times before race day, at least, I would say, so that you get used to them. You make sure your feet get used to it, and you don't get blisters, and you just better prepared like that. You also don't want to try a new sports drink on race day, like I just said. Let's say now you always drink Morton, and then on race day you try Fasten Up, or vice versa. Not a good idea. It's better to drink on race day what you've practiced. You also don't want to experiment with anything else like caffeine on race day. If you plan to use caffeine in the race, which might help you, practice that in training. Never leave anything specifically for race day, something important like that. You have to practice it in training to be well prepared. Everything should be tried and tested. So that was it for now. Yeah, I think I'm back.
So I think one of the questions you asked was the support during the race. Typically, Hyderabad Marathon has support stations every 2 kilometers. And
Okay.
we am not sure what specific brand we are supporting this year. I think we'll have somebody announce it for everybody. But it includes one of those electrolytes and water at
Okay.
all
Right.
stations.
So as soon as you know like which electrolyte drink is being served, it will be good to put that up on the website
I'm sure
maybe or
the
something.
yeah, the race team would make sure they announce it.
Yeah. It's also good for the sponsor. It's
Of
good for them
course.
to know. Like, yeah. I mean, it's genuinely like that. Like, you know, if you guys are serving a certain drink, people can practice with that. So it'll help them.
Yeah, and yeah, we'll find out. So let's see if we can get some questions in. I already have some questions from the past. Um, if Shiv, if you have any, please put them in the chat. We'll follow on them. Um, in the meantime, I'll go through the questions that we already have from members. I'm not going through each one of them. So sorry if some of your questions are missed out. Right. So one question, and this is specifically for a marathon target, um,
Mhm.
is what is the right fuel strategy full marathon for a full marathon and long runs, 25 plus long runs, I'm assuming. Okay. Should we consume energy gels or should we rely on natural sources? I guess it's going to be very personal, but maybe you should answer that.
Yeah, sure. So the question is like fuel strategy for long
What's a
runs
better
and
strategy? Go for gels uh, or the energy drinks, or should we go for natural sources like bananas or dates?
yeah, it's a good one. Okay, I would say it's a little bit individual, but generally those gels and energy drinks are designed to cause very little gastrointestinine issues. So they pass your stomach very quickly and go directly to where they have to go in the muscles, right? So generally those things are the best because they're the easiest to digest, right? If you are comfortable with some raisins or with a banana, that's totally fine. I have nothing against that, but like I said, generally most natural products are not as easily digestible as some of the energy drinks. I do recommend testing out different energy drinks. Like even if you don't know what is being served in the race, you might try something and really don't like it. Like for example, one big brand now is Morton, right? Morton is like a famous energy drink. I think it's from Norway. I'm not very sure. And it's quite good, but not everyone likes it. Some people try it out and it doesn't work for them. They get stomach issues. So then okay, I don't have to do this. I try something else, right? But yeah, generally I would say try out the energy drinks. And I know the only thing is like they're not as healthy, right? As like a banana, of course, is super healthy. So for me, after training, I always go for the natural option. Generally, I go like if it's about protein, instead of taking a protein shake, I like just milk, yogurt, eggs, right? That's like my thing to go to, rather than taking a protein shake that is first of all expensive, secondly less healthy, third terrible for my teeth, right? But now when I'm running a race, especially, I don't care about my health. I mean, I want to stay healthy enough during the race to finish the race, but right, in the whole scheme of things, of course, in my whole life, those 2 hours during the race, or 2.5 or 3 or 4 hours that I'm taking some energy gels or energy drinks, is not going to affect my health in a negative way. So I don't mind about that, right? So that's just so minimal in my whole life. So I would do that, and then during the day, as soon as you stop running, you're done with your training session or something, go for the healthier option.
Right. And also remember, a banana needs to be carried. It's it's good
That's
for
another
nothing.
thing. Yeah,
You have to carry it. Right.
good
So
point.
I'm assuming you have to. You got your answer. Please choose the best one. Obviously, the energy drinks are designed to be easily digestible, so uh, they might help you, but it's individual, right? You have to test it out yourself. Right. So one question, again, it's very specific, again, to marathon. So somebody's asking if it helps to wear a hydration vest or a pack for the race, for the marathon.
Yeah, good one. Yeah, of course, also that is individual. Some people like that because they, anytime during the race, they can grab something and drink it. But of course, you carry the extra weight. So yeah, carrying like 1 liter of water on your body,
Mhm.
that's 1 kg, that is definitely slowing you down, right? And of course, halfway or so, that water might be finished, and then the weight is gone also. But personally, I would say if you guys have water stations or something every 2 kilometers, I don't see the point of carrying liquids or anything during the race, except if if it's something you're really comfortable with, you train with it, and you know you can have your own drinks at any time. Yeah, then it's probably okay.
I think the
But
one aspect some people are worried about is at stations you may have to wait because there's too much crowd. Maybe that's
okay,
the
okay.
only choice, reason why you would want to carry hydration packs.
I didn't realize that, but that's a good point. And then you may lose 10 seconds or more by waiting. So then you better carry something. It may slow you down less. And the comfort of just being able to continue and not worry about the water stations.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, I guess. And then I guess that is especially more in the beginning of the race, the first 10 or 20
True.
kilometers, more than towards the end.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, that does make sense. Yeah.
Okay. So the next question, and there are two questions. Maybe they're related, I'm assuming, so I'll just ask them together. So somebody said, somebody's asking about good breathing techniques during marathon. And the next question also says, this person is unable to maintain a consistent pace, right? So I think they're asking about what do we do to make sure we have a consistent pace through the race. Some of your slides do cover that, saying, okay, you have to be specifically training for it to be able to do that. But do add.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's a good question. Well, first of all, when it comes to breathing, people sometimes ask me about whether they have to use the nose or the mouth. There is no special formula for that. Mouth and nose are both okay. They're both fine. Generally, when what you see with elite and sub-elite runners, you just breathe. So you open your mouth basically, and your nose is always open, of course. So you use both ways to just get oxygen inside and breathe out again. But it is also true that breathing irregularly can be a form of stress that people have during the race and can slow them down. So I normally try to teach people to teach my runners to have a certain breathing pattern. For example, 2 steps breathing in, 2 steps breathing out, 2 steps breathing in, 2 steps breathing out, right? Definitely, when you're running a marathon, you don't want to breathe 1 step in, 1 step out. Just to give you an example, how that looks like, that means you're breathing too fast, right? If that's what you're doing, that's for a 10K race or a 5K race, and then more towards the end. If you're running a marathon, it's more has to be something like, so 2 steps in, 2 steps out, or even 3 steps in, 3 steps out, right? So your breathing has to be in control in this way. Um, if the problem mostly comes if people start breathing too fast, and they start breathing too fast because they're running too fast. So then they start breathing 1 step in, 1 step out, and then that's a sign that you have to start slowing down.
Yeah.
Yeah, but other than that, I would say just open your mouth and your nose and breathe, just breathe in and out. But it is definitely something you can practice in training by having a
Yeah.
certain rhythm. And I feel like the rhythm can also help you to have a certain focus.
Right. Um, for the person who asked and for everybody listening, please don't try the three-step thing on the race day. Please train now for that. Right. You're not going to be able to achieve it on the day suddenly. So start training for the three-step thing now onwards.
Yes.
Um, Another question which came in is again about hydration strategy. They're saying basically, I think a lot of runners do experience the wall or cramps around the 32K mark, and saying, what do we need to do, especially uh, for races which are likely to be warmer? We don't know how it's going to be this year. It's always a lottery, but just in case that
Yeah,
happens, how do we stay hydrated?
yeah, yeah. Good question. Well, I think first of all, it's good to understand that cramps during the race can have different causes, different reasons. And the most common reason is just muscle tiredness. People kind of link cramps automatically to, oh, I don't have enough electrolytes or I don't have enough water. But in most cases, it's muscle tiredness. It's like we push ourselves up to a point that we have never been before in our lives, or at least not, in the last few months of training. We are running so long, our muscles getting tired. There's a lot of pounding on the ground, so there's like muscle damage. And then the muscles start to complain by contracting a bit. So, and the only way to kind of anticipate that kind of cramps is by doing the right training. If the longest run you have done is a 22 kilometer or 25 kilometer, you can be pretty sure that after 35K in a race, you're going to have cramps because, now you're entering into a territory that you've never been before, right? So doing like proper long runs helps you. But even then, it's not always a guarantee. Like when I ran my personal best, 2:12, it was in actually 21 years ago in 2004 Amsterdam Marathon. I started having cramps in my calves after 5 kilometers.
Oh,
Thankfully, I was able to kind of block that. I told myself, through self-talk, this is my day, keep on going, you can do this. And the cramps disappeared, but they did come back after 34, 35K. And the last kilometers, I was running with cramps in both of my legs. Like sometimes my foot didn't want to go up anymore, like it was kind of down, you know what I mean? Like because of cramp in my calf. But yeah, I was still able to continue running and even ran the last kilometer in 3:00. So yeah, despite the calf, so it is possible to continue with that if in some cases. So I would say the first thing is just prepare yourself physically and mentally for the race. But secondly, it is also possible to get cramps by not, yeah, being dehydrated. Basically, if you're really dehydrated and or you drink only water but not electrolytes, you might get cramps as well. So the best way to prepare for that is first of all start in training by practicing drinking. Drink water, drink electrolytes, right? So yeah, so that you prepare your body because your stomach is not used to drink while you're performing, while you're running, right? Like when we are running a race, especially when we're getting tired, most of our blood goes to our muscles.
mhm.
It doesn't want to go to our stomach because that feels like a waste, right? So you do have to train your gut. So, and you do that by practicing and doing long runs, doing harder sessions to drink and take some electrolytes. And that is, so those are basically the only things you can do to really um, prevent such kind of cramps.
Okay. There's another question that's very specific to this event, specifically because it sometimes is very humid, sometimes very hot. It is 100% all the time, a very high elevation. It's a one-way race, starts at some point, ends at some point, which is just up, right? So the question this person is asking uh, is there a way to balance out our pace, hydration, or stuff to make sure we are able to consistently do this tough elevation? Right? Like, how do we target that? I'm assuming it's going to be targeted in this person's training or any person's training because I don't think anybody's going to find a 42-kilometer upslope somewhere to train for it. Like, it's just new. It's going to be only in the event.
Right, right, right. Yeah, no. So you mean like there was some certain level of elevation during the race?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
I think it's close to about 350 meters, not
Oh yeah.
just one way.
Right, right. That's for a marathon. That's quite a bit. It's not.
Mm.
It's not a lot, but it's definitely something you want to prepare for.
Especially
Yes.
in 30-degree heat, it makes us.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, so yeah, that is, you know, you just have to prepare for that. There's no other way to get ready than just prepare for that in training. And especially, I would say, finish your long runs uphill, right? And of course, that means you'll be running a bit slower, but it's not about, the speed always. It's about getting your body ready for the race. So if I was taking part in the Hyderabad Marathon, which I definitely hope I will be able to do one time in the next 10 years or so, maybe when my kids are a little bigger and come to India for the Hyderabad Marathon. But yeah, then I would do my long runs in a bit sloppy terrain, a little bit up and downhill, and especially I would try to finish with the last let's say 5-6 kilometers more some incline. Yeah, because you have to train your body and mind uh, to get used to such kind of load.
Right. This is not a question somebody asked, but maybe I'm just asking from my point of view. Uh, if people do not have access to the same kind of hills, does a faster run kind of help on a hill? I mean, when you actually reach a hill, on a flat surface, you run faster. Would it correlate to a slower hill run?
You mean like during the race?
During the race, we have the hill. There is no option in that. But if
Yes,
somebody who
yes.
doesn't have access to the hill for training, how do they figure out how to do that? Like some people just live.
Yeah, so there's, well, I would say there's different sessions you can do. Yeah, right. You can. It will definitely help to do some like purely hill sessions. So if there's going to be lots of uphill during the race, you can take a slope of, let's say, 300 meters and run it up and down 10 times. So you go uphill pretty fast, of course, and then you jog very slowly downhill. It doesn't make sense to go very fast downhill. So one of my Indian athletes who lives in Bangalore, I gave her a session of like 10 times 300 meters uphill
Mhm.
with yeah, easy jog recovery in between. And then at the end, when she was done with the 10 times 300 meters uphill, she did I think 3 or 4 kilometer at marathon pace.
Oh,
Not necessarily uphill. I just wanted her to run at marathon pace while the legs were very tired from the hills,
right.
right?
Mhm.
So that is one way of doing it. Um, During the race, I would say when you approach a hill, don't try to maintain the pace because especially in the first 30 kilometers, if you try to maintain your speed uphill, you're going over your marathon effort, over your marathon pace actually, and that will break you up at the end. So reduce a little bit your stride length, reduce a little bit your pace going uphill, yeah, to match for the effort actually, so that you have enough energy at the end.
Okay, so this one's an interesting question. I don't even know how to formulate it, but I'll read it out as is. So,
Mhm.
are high mileage weeks like 70 or 80K necessary for a marathon, or a 3 to 4 day run and 2 day strength training session enough to, let's say, a 5 hour marathon?
Oh yes, yes, yes. The thing is only that if someone is able to handle, let's say, 70 kilometers a week, and recover well from that, then that person has a higher chance of finishing a bit faster than someone who's able to run maybe 40 kilometers a week, right? But when it comes about finishing a marathon and maybe in, let's say, 5 hours or 4.5 hours, it's definitely not a must to go for 70 kilometers a week. If your goal is to finish a marathon,
Mhm.
yeah,
Go.
you would do good to include some long runs, definitely, but you don't have to make 70 kilometers a week. In fact, I'll tell you something funny. I'm here at Kenya Camps, right? So I have one runner here. Not mention his name because yeah, it's not so important. But anyway, there's one runner who contacted me and he said it has always been my dream to run a marathon in Kenya. And I said, okay, what's the longest you have run so far? And then how many marathons did you do? He said, no, I never ran more than 25 kilometers in my life. Okay, we talked about it, but in the end, we said we're going to do it. So 2 days from now, on Monday, him and I are going to start here a marathon. I'm not going to finish it because I have other stuff to do. So I'll probably run the first 30 kilometers with him, and we have someone pacing him for the last 12K. He's going to run a marathon, and it's all about finishing. And even though he has never run more than 25K in his life, as a coach, I would say, okay, it's a little bit crazy, and if you have time to prepare for it, it would definitely be smart to do some long runs. So it's not necessarily the smartest thing to do, but at the same time, it's possible. It's possible, and if your goal is only to finish it, running 40 kilometers a week can be enough. But I would definitely advise to maybe once in 3 weeks or so to do a longer run, right? And how long is long, it depends also on the person, but it will be great if you can run at least 32 kilometers one time before you go for the actual marathon, so that it's not a too big shock for your body.
Sure. Right. So this question personally scares me, but maybe you have better insights. So the question is,
Okay.
this person has registered for an FM November this year, and he or she, I shouldn't say he, but has registered for 3 half marathons before that. So in the next 6 months, the 3 half marathons and ending in a full marathon. What should be my preparation process for these HMs, which simultaneously help with my preparation for FM, for full marathon?
I'm not sure
So,
I fully get it.
so this person's registered for 3 half marathons in the next 3-4 months before November,
Okay,
and also registered for a full marathon in November. The
right.
person's question is, what should be my preparation process for the half marathons so that it feeds into the preparation for the full marathon
Okay, right. And the full marathon will be in November, right?
in November? Yes.
Yes. I would say, I don't know if it's beginning or end of November, but normally I start preparing athletes more specifically for the marathon about 12 weeks out, right? So if the race is somewhere in November, then somewhere in August we start to prepare, right? End of August or so we start to prepare more specifically for the marathon. But you can still run half marathon races while you are training for the marathon, and you can also do some half marathon sessions. So I would say now we are in June. So right now, that person's training should focus on improving the threshold. The threshold is the pace you can maintain in a race of about 1 hour. In training, you might be able to maintain it for half an hour. So you do sessions like what I just described, 5 times 1600, or in terms of minutes, 5 times 6 or 7 minutes or 8 minutes at a pretty hard but doable pace with 2 minutes of recovery in between. 8 kilometers tempo run where you run at a pretty hard but not all out pace. Let's say an RPE of 7 to 8 on a scale of 1 to 10. So you will do some hill work also. He will do a little bit some stuff at 10K to 5K race pace. So a combination of 5, 10K and half marathon speed, right? And if he combines that with maybe once in 2 weeks a good long run of maybe 25K or 28K, then you can be really well prepared that by the time you start with marathon training, now you can do a 28K long run without that being a shock to your body. Because if you have to go from 20K and your goal is to run a marathon, so you want to do maybe 33K or 35K in training, you have a big gap to bridge. So before you start with the marathon training, if you can already do some long runs of 24, 25, 26K up to maybe 28K, that will be amazing. But they don't have to be fast. They can be very slow, easy runs. And then when you start with the marathon training, you have improved your threshold. Your half marathon and 10K speed are at a good level, and you're able to run 28K without many issues. Now you can start to focus a bit more on that marathon speed and improving that long run up to 32 or 35K and include some marathon speed in that.
Nice. So there's a bunch more questions, but I limited to one last one here. So, and these are I think there are a couple of people who asked the same question. This is related to what their age is. I think some of the runners are about 40, 50 years. One person says 60 years. The question in general is, how do I continue to run while, kind of improving my health or staying uninjured? I think it's
That's a
a
good one.
matter of, yeah.
I think I have realized that as we get older, especially 45 plus, I would say, strength training becomes more important because we are more likely to get injured because our strength reduces. Our strength and power we basically get weaker every year if we don't train our strength. But if we do train our strength, we can maintain that level for a pretty long time. I can tell you when I went to the gym last year, April, I hadn't been in the gym. Well, I hadn't lifted any weights for about 5 or 6 years. I just done some like floor exercises, like on a mat in my house. And when I did a squat exercise, I could only lift 40 kg, which for me is not a lot. Then I realized like, okay, those floor exercises might be good for my core, right? But I'm losing some strength here. My hamstrings, my glutes, and my quads are not as strong as before. So I started doing systematic weightlifting once or sometimes twice a week. Now I'm back to 85. So I went from 40 kg to lifting now 85 kg with squats and I think about 60, which is my body weight with deadlifts. And that really helps me. Like now I am able to train harder than 3 years ago when I was 45. Now I'm 48 and I'm able to train harder and I'm running faster than 3 years ago. And I definitely feel like the kind of secret here is consistent strength training. And of course, strength training is just a tool strength training is nothing without the running. You have to do the running as well, right? But as we get older, that strength training that is not that important when we're 24, 25, or 32, 33. That strength training becomes really important when we are 40 plus, 50 plus, and definitely 60 plus. And then secondly, I should say that as you get older, you have to start to be more flexible with your training. What I mean with flexible is like you do something faster on a Tuesday, like a fartlek or a track session. You may not be able to do another faster workout that week because maybe in your mind you're like, okay, I used to do Tuesday hard and then Thursday or Friday or Saturday, but now we're older, our recovery slows down. Recovery is not the same as when we were 35 years old. So maybe we just do one harder workout in a week and a strength session, and then the rest is easy running, right? Maybe another week we can do two harder sessions, but that's what I mean. You have to be flexible because you have to allow your body to have the recovery that it's asking for. And as we get older, we need more time to recover from the harder workouts.
Got it. So I did say last, but somebody just pinged in. I'm not sure this question is. So the question is, what is the trigger points that we should be looking out for during a race? Whether that's excessive heart rate or cramps or whatever, then we need to decide that I need to abort.
To abort, like to slow down or to like
Or
stop?
I think it says abort the race. I'm assuming he's going to just slip out or something, or not
Oh,
run.
okay. Well, okay. My belief actually is that if you start a race, you
Finish it.
should try your freaking best to finish it. Like you never really want to quit a race or even a workout unless you're injured, right? If you're injured, so one big trigger point, of course, is like pain, right? If you're running and you feel like a sharp pain in your knee or like a stinging pain in your Achilles tendon, that's a good reason to quit. Like you don't want to continue with that and then be proud that you finished, but then you can't run for the next 6 months because you've screwed up your legs, right? So pain, like not tiredness pain, but serious like knee pain or Achilles pain is a reason to stop. Heart rate, I would say like if your heart rate goes up, slow down. Of course, yeah, I say we should always try to finish a race, but that being said, I don't want to be guilty of making someone collapse in a race when it's 30 degrees, right? When it has to be medically,
Safe.
it's smart enough, acceptable to finish. So obviously, if it's 30 degrees, yeah, there are going to be different rules apply, right? When it's a cool race, you actually have no reason not to finish except injury or pain. But when it's 30 degrees, yeah, then I would say if your heart rate is up for a considerably long time, or you start to feel dizzy, like your vision becomes blurry, that's probably a moment you wanna, first of all, you wanna stop, go to a drinking station and drink enough water.
Yeah.
Drink some, stop for a moment, stop running and start drinking. If you start to feel okay, you can probably continue. If you don't feel okay and your heart, especially if your heart rate doesn't go down, right? If your heart rate continues to be high, whatever is high for you, for some people, 150 is high, for others it's 180. But yeah, if it continues to be high, even though you're standing in the shade and you're drinking, then you should probably abort the race.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I think we're at the end of the questions. I have one personal question. Can we know about that band on your hand?
Sorry, this one?
That colorful band? What is that?
Oh, it's a Kenyan flag.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Nice.
So they make those bracelets here in Kenya, and you can make what you want. I actually had one Kenyan flag and then the Dutch flag on the other side,
Oh,
the Netherlands, right? I'm from the Netherlands. But yeah, that one got broken after wearing it for 5 years or so. So now I have this one, which is the Kenyan flag also.
no, looks very cool.
They also make with Indian flags and or your name on it or something. Yeah.
Sweet. Nice. Hey, thanks. That was just a curiosity question, so thanks for that.
Yeah, sure. Many people here when they come here, they order one. They're quite cheap, like 200 rupees or something.
Oh, nice. Hey, I
Yeah.
think you end of the session, Hugo, if you have some last message for the runners, please share it, and then we can close our discussion after that.
Yeah, well, I just want to wish everyone all the best in the last, 9 weeks or so of training. And if, yeah, like you say, there is a chance of hot weather, I would say, it's not sure. Like you say, it's a lottery, right? The weather. So be prepared for hot weather because it's better to be prepared for it and you don't need it, rather than not preparing and hoping for cool weather. And then when it actually gets hot, you're totally not ready for it. So that means if it can be hot on race day, sometimes you might have to do a long run, not too early in the morning, right? To make sure you're running in warm conditions. Practice drinking, practice taking electrolytes. Yeah, even cooling. It turns out like so. There's different. I think some of you may have seen the Olympics where Sifan Hassan won the marathon, and she was wearing this funny thing on her head to cool her down. So research shows that especially your forehead, I think it's your forehead and your neck are points that if you are able to cool them, this can be a sponge that you put there, can be a towel with some ice inside. If you're able to cool there, it really cools down your whole system and it reduces the chances of overheating and improves your performance in general. So like can be pre-cooling before the race or even cooling during the race, like Sifa did. And I think there are also some like how do you call these things? I don't know the name for them, but you wear them like a wristband, and you
Okay.
can put some ice inside.
Oh,
You can prepare ice in the freezer and put it inside, or it has some kind of something
so
inside
the
that
gel
you can
packs
actually
which can
put.
be worn on?
Maybe with like a gel inside, and you can put it in the freezer. And then when
Oh,
you take it out of the freezer, it's like super cold, and you can. So your wrists and your neck and your forehead are the 3 points I think that are most important to cool. But those are the parts like that can have a significant effect if you're able to cool them down.
okay. I'm sorry, Hugo, but there's like one last question.
No problem, no problem.
Okay, so I think this particular runner has he's been running or he or she's been running half marathons, and over the last two half marathons, this person has always ended up with a lot of shin pain during the like had to walk through the race because of shin pain.
Hmm.
So the question is, how do I avoid the shin bone pain? I'm assuming it's not a bone pain, but the pain around the shin.
You kept the hardest question for the end.
That's the last hardest one at the end.
Yeah. To be honest, it's a bit hard, right? Because this is happening during the race. I assume it's not something that's happening during training. Otherwise, you would know that. So normally the only way is again, like with many things, to prepare by doing some longer distances in training. and you want to have the right shoes, of course. I've personally noticed some different effect with different running shoes. For example, I'm now during my faster runs, I'm using the Essex Super Blast, which has a good sole. It does not have a carbon plate, but it just has good foam. And I noticed like when I finish a 25K run, my legs feel much better than before. Like it doesn't feel the same as when I used my previous running shoes. So she could try out different running shoes. She might need a little bit more cushion because often those things are related to the impact that it has on the ground. So she might need like a, I don't know, Hoka One or something that has really good cushion that is made for longer distances. So she could try that out first, and then of course build up.
Apparently, it happens during
Oh,
training
it
also.
actually starts during training. Right, right. Yeah, so yeah, you want to prepare yourself for it, of course, for the race, but not up to a point that it hurts too much during training, right? So if it is something that you do a 20K long run, you feel pain for 3 or 4 days, that's a bit too much, right? Then I would say go and see a physiotherapist, see if there's some weakness. Because maybe the physio, if it's a good physio, he or she should be able to do some tests and see like the strength of the calf muscles, the all the different muscles and tendons around the shin, and see if there's some kind of specific strength training that can be done there. Because sometimes that is the solution and it takes time. Of course, it's not something that can be solved in 1 week. It may take 3 months or 4 months of consistent training, but that's often one of the ways. And the other ways is to control the training load. If it is too much during training, where she goes into a marathon with already having shin pain from the week before the long run and stuff, then of course it's going to be worse in the race. So you never want to go to a point in training where a training session causes 3 or 4 days of pain. Maybe if it's one day, like the next day, you feel your shin a bit, but then 2 days later, the pain is gone. That is often okay, right? It's not great, but it's acceptable, I would say. But if you do a long run on a Saturday and on Tuesday you still feel that shin pain, that's not a good. So she has to balance that a little bit, try to see what she can handle, not too much, not too little, and then consult the physio at the same time. And
Yeah.
yeah, like I said, look at the running shoes as well.
So please, whoever this is, figure out your training and do take some advice from a physio. Because if it's going on for these many races or training sessions, I think it's time you visit a physio.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Hugo. So for everyone, please go through this video again on YouTube. It should be available for you. Remember all the great things he's already shared with you. Uh, Try to look to improve yourself. Don't prove yourself on every race, every training. Make sure you're not trying new stuff on race days. Uh, Go through all those things that you're not supposed to do. We tend to do a lot of good things, but we forget that we don't have to do something which are bad for us. So remember all those things and have a great training.
All the best for everyone.
All the best, everyone. Thank you so much, Hugo, again.
Thanks for having me.